Hello, hello, testing. All right, I think that's good. How's it going, everyone? Let's switch over. And we have Jesus on the screen. Let me see if I can unmute you. Try saying hello. Ooh. All right. Forgot to do one thing. Limit the audio. Give me a second. Okay. Do right around there. Okay. Try giving us another hello, Jesus. That's better. Cool. And how's everyone doing? Hello, hello. Let me know if there's any audio issues. This is the first time we're streaming from ever since I've moved. So there might be some issues cropping up here and there. Hopefully there's no audio repeats or anything like that. But so today we're going to be talking coding bootcamp schools. Again, I am accompanied with today one of our lovely interns from the Learn Academy bootcamp, Jesus Ortega. It's been a pleasure so far being able to mentor him, and hopefully he's been having a good time too. And so why don't you so introduce yourself, Jesus. Tell us who you are. Cool. Yeah. So start things off. What was Jesus before boot camp school doing? What was your life like? Okay. Give us a second, Jesus. They can't hear you. So let's see. There we go. All right. Can you start that over again, Jesus? Oh, still no. Interesting. Oh, they still can't hear you. So, oh, let's see. Let's try this now. Okay. Now test. Say something, Jesus.
Test, test.
There we go. All right. Okay. Now for
Cool.
third time's the charm. Let's do this.
Yeah, third times. So before coding bootcamp and general, college student, I was majoring in biology. I had recently gotten accepted to UCSD, but didn't attend because I decided to attend the coding bootcamp. But I was majoring in bio, wanted to apply to a physician assistant program. I was working closely with the doctor, a dermatologist to be specific. So I was in the medical field prior to this.
Okay. Cool. And so so what made you decide to, or I guess what first introduced you to web development?
So from my memory, I remember first getting introduced somehow to web development back in like seventh grade. Clearly still remember I was part of this math and science and engineering program after school, and it's actually MESA program. I think it's still around in California. I think a lot of schools still incorporate that into their after school programs. So I was part of that. I was part of the after school program, and I clearly remember my instructor saying like, "Hey, we're gonna go to this quote unquote, meetup at our local college back home." There's going to be an event, you guys could go ahead and either do focus on math, engineering, or science. And the whole point of building a web page came up. This is, man, I want to say like mid 2000s, so everything was still done on PC with a notepad. And that was like my first exposure to some form of, web development. But when I moved up to San Diego, man, that's where it all began. One of my coworkers was doing, a drop shipping site. He was kind of getting into it, and he kind of told me like, "Hey, check out my website. What do you think about it?" And I was honest with him. I was like, "You know what, man? This doesn't look too well. It doesn't at all." And he's like, "Well, what do you think? You think you could do something better?" I was like, "Well, I could try. I could see what's up. So." I did my own research. HTML, CSS, JavaScript came up, and then I just next thing you know, I was pretty deep on research, and my curiosity just kept on picking at it. Like, oh man, like what is this? What is this? What is a web developer? What is coding? And I just kept doing research, man, research, and eventually it all kind of fell into place to where I'm at now.
Gotcha. So, so from there, what brought you to choosing the current bootcamp school you're at, which is if anyone's curious, is called Learn Academy. So what brought you? So you went from researching and finding out like what web development is. You went down the rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what brought you to the point that, hey, I'm going to start looking at bootcamp schools, and what was your personal criteria for choosing a bootcamp school?
So first, I mean, what I at first when I was doing research, I didn't even know what a boot camp was. I just thought that people the way they learned was either self learned or through college. The general college route. And I ran across this thing called coding boot camps. And I was like, what is this? So I went ahead and did a little bit more research, and I realized they what it really was. It was an extensive program that teaches you you know how to code. So I kind of pondered with the idea for months, man, because I mean, I was still kind of uneasy and unsure what all of this was about. Once I built up the confidence and built up my idea this, what, I'm gonna go for this. I started doing the research, and Learn Academy was one of those top two ones in my location. It was that one in General Assembly. But what really stood out from Learn was the fact that they offer a internship. That's honestly that's what really sold me. Prior to this, like I said, I was in the medical field. I was a certified medical assistant. I actually went through a trade school that offered an internship at the end of the program, which I'm already familiar with this whole 3 months, 4 months, 6 month program, and then boom, an internship.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of that, man, because honestly, those internships really help out, solidify what you learn and get you, how you say, real world experience. Thankfully, with me going through the medical one, I was able to learn a lot and actually landed me my first job. So internships, I'm a big fan of, and that's honestly what sold to me that Learn was the one to go for. And on top of that, I mean, everyone offers, we can help you with find work and whatnot, work career services. But Learn really emphasizes, and I feel like Learn really does something different with their services when it comes to that route. But I think what really really sold it to me that Learn was the place to go, and for bootcamp was their internship.
Gotcha. That's a really interesting insight because of your previous experience going through I guess, what was it, a program like as like a certification test style program for medical.
Yeah, so it was like a trade school,
A trade school.
similar
There you
to
go.
this. Yeah, it was a trade school.
Yeah, so given your experience going through that and getting a job, you had this insight that, you know, you you were mindful about what your qualifications were for if you were going to go to another, trade school for coding, let's say,
Mhm.
put it that way, that you wanted certain criteria because of your past experience and being successful at going to a medical trade school and taking those principles and and applying them to a technical quote unquote trade school, or in this case boot camp. And that's really valuable insight that you end up having, because that is something I try to tell people, that if you are going to be going through a boot camp school, to ensure that there are some sort of job assurances associated with that, because
Mm-hmm.
and also look up, like, because a coding bootcamp school will always say that they have a higher rate, 80% higher rate, but if they're sometimes those numbers can be a little bit inflated, or they might be fudging the numbers a little bit, but ensuring that
Mm-hmm.
at least you get as much experience as possible through an internship program, rev share in terms of revenue and payment, is very valuable. So I feel like you made a smart and educated decision based off your past experiences. Um, so it makes so was your experience going through a trade school the reason why you didn't really consider, uh out of curiosity, consider going
Mm-hmm.
through like a community college, or trying to go like the 4-year route of getting a bachelor's degree?
Definitely, man. I mean, I'm all for different ways of teaching or different types of schooling, and like to add on to that, yeah, my past experience with the trade school was amazing. Like I don't have anything bad to say about it. It taught me a lot of skills, and then you know it teaches you the same thing that maybe a 2-year community college route, or even a 4-year, well, not too much a 4-year, but more of a 2-year community route is willing to teach you. It's just in a shorter period of time and very fast paced. For some people it's too much, so for some people, they feel overwhelmed, and it's like, oh, I can't learn like this, I'm a slower learner, etc., whatever the case may be. But I definitely, from my past experience with trade school, it really pointed me to going for a coding boot camp that's a trade school style, because I kind of knew what I was getting into. I know it was going to be more of a fast paced, and things are going to be thrown at me consecutively every day.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I wouldn't change the route. If someone were to ask me, hey, would you do another trade school for a different career, for a different school type of schooling, of course I'll take a trade school any other day, to be honest. And the trade schools are great. Their instructors are great. They teach you the same amount that you're going to be learning from a community college, just at a different, in a different pace. And that's Learn does it very well at really doing that as a trade school.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty good advice to give to people, because I don't think that not that many people really know about trade schools. Like, from your experience talking with other
Hmm.
people, um, did other people that you've had a conversation with ever considered trade school, even for any sort of career path in general?
No, not at all, man. I mean, like we're raised to go down a 2-year community college or 4-year community or 4-year university path. That's what we're raised as. That's what is thrown at us, like, hey, you have to go down the community college road, or down the 4-year community or university road, to get some form of skill, or to get some form of career, which is not that's not the case, to be honest. I mean, trade schools are amazing. They teach you the same content that you're going to be learning at a community college or a university level.
Yeah.
I like one of my best friends, he took a trade school route as well for dental, and he's continuing his trade school up here in San Diego at Pima, Pima Medical School, which is another trade school. It's trade schools are awesome, man. I mean, I would not doubt them at all. Of course, do your research, the logical way, do your research, see what they offer, see what curriculum they're teaching, but trade schools is a good route to take, man, to be honest.
Cool. That's really good advice. Thank you for that
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
little piece of gem of knowledge. So, um, so okay, so let's rewind and picture ourselves. We're Jesus about to go into the boot camp. Oh, looks like we have a question too. You may have mentioned. So let's bring this up.
Yep.
So So you may have mentioned this at the beginning, but are you still in the boot camp, and when are you expecting to finish? So do you want to talk about your current state of the boot camp right now?
Yeah, definitely. So Lily Hazel, yeah. As right now, my current state, I'm interning with Zeal. Uh, the interning portion of this is actually still part of the code bootcamp. So yes, I'm still part of the code bootcamp right now. I'm just in a different phase, which is my internship. I'm not in a classroom learning, going through lessons. But my current state right now is still part of the bootcamp, just at my internship portion of it.
Gotcha.
And I'm expected to finish after this internship is over. I mean, that's when it's fully ends.
Cool. Yeah, we'll try to get into a little bit more about the timeline and stuff like that with the boot camp very
Yep.
shortly. We can talk about that. So yeah, so let's try to rewind and let's get into Jesus's mind right before he took the boot camp. Let's Can you remember what your expectations, what you were expecting coming into the boot camp initially, what you thought?
Yeah, of course, man. So before, I mean, prior to this, my mentality was that I'm diving into something unknown, you know, not completely unknown. I mean, tech, I know, a good amount of tech, but when it comes to coding, I had just been doing, home learning for 4 to maybe less than 6 months. So I was expecting to be challenged, and I was knew that this was going to be a big challenge, and that's mainly the reason why I went down the route. But prior to this, I was expecting to be pushed, like almost in a similar way that I was pushed at my last trade school, and I was expecting to learn some great things that's gonna take me to the next level. I came in, of course, with an open mind. I knew, that I was going to get stuck, and I knew that, I'm not going to be top of the class or, whatever the case may be. I came in with a positive attitude, and I was expected that I was going to get frustrated on myself as well. The fact that something I may not know or may not learn very well, I know that I was going to need to put in the effort outside of school as well.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna go a little bit forward in time, and let's just talk about what how the coding boot camp is structured now. So for your coding boot camp, how many weeks was it? I guess how was it structured? And you can talk about like what how you were mentioning this is the intern phase. So what part of that is the boot camp? So I know I asked a bunch of questions, but yeah, let's
No,
just
no,
start.
no. So the structure of it, it's every day you're learning something different, man. Every day, every day you're getting something thrown at you that might not be the same aligned with what you learned the day before. They teach you. They're there to teach you, something almost every day, something new every day. So the structure of it's very well thought out. They start you off with quote unquote the basics, kind of like, hey, like here's a little, test the waters, and but once that's out the way, it's like, okay, let's get the ball rolling, So the structure is very well. The length of the boot camp in class is it's 12 weeks, so it's about 3 months. And then after that, you have a 1 month internship that's connected to your whole code boot camp. So in total, it's 4 months. And right now, my phase I already passed the 12 week in class. Now I'm in my second week of the internship.
Gotcha. Okay, and then so how was it structured? So it's 12 weeks, 3 months for the
Hmm.
learning portion of it.
Yeah.
And how was it like for people coming, because for people that don't know how the coding boot camps, how rigorous they are, how was it
Hmm.
structured for you? Like what was there a specific week where we focused on different stuff? You kind of like alluded to, on a day-to-day basis, but
Hmm.
how was each portion structured?
Yeah. So you start off almost in the structure as a front end, back end, and then full stack, integrating both of them together. So one section or 1 month you might just be learning all about front end, frameworks. Then another month you're going to dive deep into the backend frameworks, and then the last month it's like, okay, we're bringing it all together and showing you how it works from beginning to end, back and vice versa, from back to, to the front. So that's similarly how it's structured. They teach you the front end, and then they teach you back end, and then they bring it together with the full stack to kind of solidify, like, hey, this is how it all works together. Whatever you learned in the last 8 weeks, so let's bring it together in the last 4 weeks to kind of bring it, show you how it all connects and how it all works.
Yeah. So Lily kind of brings up this interesting thing about, for her, I can only focus a few hours every day, truly focus, especially when learning new things, and I have this need to know everything. So if I don't understand something, I completely struggle on moving on. That brings up to a good point, because this is a very, very rigorous learning regiment. You're every
Yeah.
8 hours a day. You're
Hmm.
constantly learning something new. Where how did you? Was there times where you just couldn't cope? You would forget things, and how did you compensate for them? Was that like, it's pretty intense?
Yeah, it is. Of course, man. Coding in general, it's intense. It's not easy stuff. It's difficult, of course. And I mean, I feel the same way with you, Lily. Like, there's certain things where it's like, okay, I can literally sit down and focus, and then after a certain period of time, it's like, oh man, like, am I really getting the content? Am I really understanding it? It's rough. 8 hours a day. Just grinding hard, and then outside of that, I still invested time in myself, to kind of learn. But to kind of touch up on what Lily said, yeah, I'm the same way. I have the tendency to try to learn everything, even to this, and even in the current state that I am right now, getting all these new things thrown at me. It's like, man, I want to learn it, 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 like, it's tough. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, but it's a structure. It's a structure. It's structured in a way to kind of get the ball rolling, and it's something that it's you got to kind of train yourself to be like, you know what, I did not understand that. Set some time apart to the side and go back and maybe review it on your own.
So, yeah. So thank you, Lily, for that. For highlighting that, admiring
Yeah.
Jesus. Um, and yes, self studying is a difficult route to go by.
Mhm.
Um, for a few minutes, anywhere near ready to employ. Honestly, you'll never feel you're ready to be employed. This is
Yeah.
what I tell. So I try to when people feel that way. It's constant. And when you start working, and you are, even when you're an experienced developer, like I am, I say quote unquote experienced developer for, even for myself. But when you're applying for a new job, even then you might not feel that you're ready for that job. It's like, oh, am I ready for this job doing this specific thing? Oh, it's a senior
Yeah.
engineer job. Am I ready for this job at this company? I don't feel ready. This is kind of scary. Um, self so that comes with the territory. So you'll never,
Yeah.
if you're going to be very critical of yourself, you're never going to truly feel ready.
And to touch up on it, I mean, I felt the same way in my last, going through the other trade school that I went through, with the whole medical field. I felt the same way, man. After the internship, I was like, am I job ready? Like, do I really feel like I'm ready to dive in and, do this? Like, it's the uncertainty, but I think just having confidence in yourself and, continue having that, ambition to continue learning, that's really what helps out.
Yeah. So I'm curious, is there any sort of things you could suggest, like as your time going through the bootcamp school? Was there certain strategies you picked up in order to ensure that you were, learning the most possible? Did you take notes?
Hmm.
Did you write them down? Did you take digital notes? Like how did you how did you learn? What are the strategies you used to cope with this overwhelming degree of knowledge that's being absolutely just dumped on you?
Yeah. So I'm a more of a write down notes person. I tried doing digital notes in college, and that was just a bit. not my thing. I went through a whole semester with digital notes, and it was like the worst thing ever. I didn't do so well in that class. So I transferred back to good old pen and paper, man. I wrote down my notes. I wish this is one thing. I kind of wish I would have asked a little bit more questions. Now that I'm in this position now where I'm like, understanding, different concepts more and kind of digging more into it. But other than that, yeah, it's an 8-hour day, 8-hour day of, nonstop coding. After that, I still went home and I still, put in an hour or two, at night. Like, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's overwhelming, and definitely rest. Get some sleep, rest, because if you're grinding out, 8 hours plus another 4 or 5 hours at home, it's like it's not gonna stick. So I really structured myself and I told myself like, okay, I will be I will be okay with adding another hour to 2 hours after class at home, working on something or reviewing my notes or going over the lessons again or going over the problems again on my own. So that's it. It turns out to be more than an 8-hour day. It turns out to be more like a 10-hour, pushing the 11-hour day of coding, but definitely handwritten notes, going over my notes and doing the work again at home and reviewing, trying to understand the concept. That's a really, good strategy that I would suggest and recommend to people who are going through the same, coding bootcamp is write your notes down, review them, ask as much questions as you can, because they're there to help you out. They're there to answer those questions to help you understand what's going on, and definitely invest time outside of coding boot camp. An hour to two a day, it's perfectly fine. Also, you don't want to overdo it and overwhelm yourself, because nothing's going to stick if you do that. You just, oh man, I got to grind out, an extra 5 hours after work, after 8 hours of intense work. Like, no, man, that's not going to work out. Maybe for some people it does, but for me personally, I found that, adding an hour to two, towards the end of the night really helped out, in between having those breaks of watching TV, kind of not thinking about code, watching YouTube videos that had to do with something else, like video games or, cars or whatever, kind of just get my mind off the coding for a little bit to kind of have whatever I learned that day kind of sink in. And definitely resting, man. Get enough rest. That's a big thing, like going through college. Yeah, I had those late nights, 2, 3 in the morning, waking up at 6 in the morning, to go into class, knock out a test. Yeah, it's simple. That's simple. But when you're doing something like this, it's not too simple, man. Especially because you're learning something, so intense on a daily basis. It definitely gets your rest. Definitely.
Nice. Great advice. And thank you very much for that follow, Anti-C Dope. Thank you.
Nice.
So I want to highlight a key thing that as part of this, it's not just the 8 hours in class, it's after. So it's not just 40 hours a week, it's 50 minimum 50 hours a week, because you're doing, you yourself are doing maybe roughly 10 hours a day. So so that's 50 hours a week. That's a lot of chunk of time. Don't go into a coding boot camp thinking like, oh, I'll go to the boot camp during the day and maybe do like a night shift at night. That's sounds like it's gonna be a little rough.
With me, believe it or not, throughout boot camp and even right now as we speak, I kept a job during the weekends, man, working at the office. Like it was difficult, but like during the weekends I try to get enough sleep, and then during the weekends I would put in an additional 2 to 3 hours, like not crazy crammed, but something to kind of keep everything kind of freshened up. Like, all right, I learned about loops. Let me go ahead. I learned loops, the beginning of last week, and it comes to the weekend. Like, let me go ahead and go over loops again to kind of refresh myself, because I know the following week we're going to be implementing something else, and that's may use loops or may use components or whatever the case may be. So it extends even beyond the Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Dr. Argus is reiterating that, yeah, get some rest,
Definitely.
rest that brain. If not, everything's just gonna fall out.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I mean,
when you went, so we talked about taking notes and stuff like that. Did you utilize any online learning content to help you? So like, let's say, yeah, you had to go and you didn't fully understand loops. So did you use any online websites or like that to help like drive down those facts, or were you just looking at your notes and looking at the materials that the school provided you?
no, definitely, getting looking at videos on YouTube, tutorials, reading up a lot of documentation online as well, whether it be where we're working on React or Rails, reading up on a documentation to kind of get a better understanding, along with my notes, man. I mean, just review my notes, compare them to what I'm, possibly looking at the tutorial online, and kind of, correlate both of them. Like, okay, I see how it works, oh, I see how this works, oh, I see how this is connected to that. So my advice is definitely, add some additional resources, as in, even if it's just simple YouTube videos. There's a lot of good YouTube content nowadays that teach, very well coding, strategies, or very, very good coding, specific things. So, and a lot of reading, I like to read, so I read a lot of documentation. There were certain books that I kind of, picked up, and I read a few chapters so I kind of understand certain things. But yeah, adding different resources outside of what Learn provides you is it's a big plus, man.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for that. And yes, YouTube's a very powerful learning resource. You don't realize it. It's not just full of
Yeah.
memes and, and cat videos. There is
Yeah.
knowledgeable, there is great content to help you learn on there. Let's see. Lily has a question. What surprised you the most about the code camp once you started, or did you feel prepared for anything?
So what surprised me, one of the main surprises when I first entered coding bootcamp was how the instructors were very, very knowledgeable, and how they knew what was coming, what the people that were coming in. Most of them didn't have any coding background. Most of them maybe a little bit of coding here and there, but how they were ready to kind of work that first week and kind of get everyone going at the first, get everyone going properly, and go on from there. Another thing was how intense it was going to be. Like the first day they gave us the so-called this syllabus, and we kind of ran through them, and I was like, holy cow, man, like this is going to be some intense stuff, and that was surprising to me, going coming from a general college, you know route, and taking another, trade school where it had nothing to do with tech. And that was a big surprise for me. And it's for the second part, did I feel prepared? To a certain extent. To a certain extent, like you can only go into something so prepared, before you're thrown with something new that you don't even know. um, I felt prepared, the first 2-3 weeks until we started learning about, a different framework, which I probably never even heard of. When they introduced React, for example, I didn't really know what React was when I first entered coding bootcamp, or when they introduced Ruby and Rails, I was like, what is this? So um, I was prepared to a certain point.
Cool. So, during your time in the boot camp, what was what did you have any moments of challenge? Was there anything that you struggled with, like any projects or anything like that during your time during in the boot camp?
Yeah, one of the first main struggles that I ran into was working with React, man. We were building a tic-tac-toe game, and we were learning how to pass, state props through components, and the event handlers, like, oh, handle change, handle, submit. So that's one of the main, troubles and main issues that I ran into myself. Like that's when I was introduced to a new framework, which was React, and then all these new concepts that came with it, where I was like, oh man, like this is something different. This is, to me at the moment, I was like, man, this is like a foreign language to me, but yeah, man, that was one of the first struggles that I had, that I encountered, that still stick with me to this day, that I remember, because that was a big turning point where I was like, okay, this is something that I really got to invest my time in very well, organize myself very well to kind of understand and learn these concepts. But that's probably one of the main ones where I learned. And then along came when we hit the back end with Ruby on Rails, and there's a lot more to come through. But that main one was with the React. That was my first one at the coding bootcamp. Was like, oh man, yeah, this is something different.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that because initially before you were doing React, they were just teaching you JavaScript, right? And you're just like, oh,
Correct.
here's how to do certain things with JavaScript, make variables,
Hmm.
And then they're like, all right, now let's use this library called React that's going to be doing all this crazy stuff like displaying stuff on the page and
Hmm.
creating these functions or these classes. So it's like you went from just kind of learning the basics of a language then to
Yep.
using a library that is doing some very sophisticated stuff that is very magical. And not a lot of
Yep.
people know exactly how, a lot of people don't know exactly how it works. They just know it works and they know how to use it. And yeah, going from you still don't fully understand the language to then, having to use this library along with the language that you're still trying to get accustomed to would naturally be very overwhelming for
Oh yeah. Definitely, man. And yeah, to correct myself, a library, to correct a library. So yeah, man, it's like I was like, okay, I came in with some JavaScript. I was like, okay, I know what a loop is. I know how to declare variables, etc. And then once we get thrown in this, deep end water with React, I was like, wow, like all these new concepts that come on, with React. I'm like, wow, this, and I'm not gonna lie. There's at one point I did feel overwhelmed, and there's been multiple times throughout the coding bootcamp that I felt overwhelmed, but it's just kind of just fight through, and you will come out in the finish line at the end.
So when you were going through the boot camp school, was it like because when you're going through regular school, like going through a college and stuff like that, a lot of it is kind of like solo. You're just doing homework, you're just doing the
Mhm.
assignments, you're turning them in. For going through Learn Academy, was it solo focused, or did they try, or were you working with others during your time at Learn?
So one of the main things I learned really pushes is pair programming, man. Pair programming, I'm 100% with it. It's awesome. It teaches you how to work with others. If you're not the type of person to work with someone, it will teach you to work with others. Like myself, I work well with others, even individually. But yeah, one of the main things that they push is pair programming.
So, can you
Pair,
go into detail what pair programming is,
yeah,
bro?
of course. So pair programming, there's you have a driver and then you have a navigator. The person who's driving is generally the one who's coding at the moment. The person who's navigating, for example, if you guys are taking a road trip, you have the one who's driving and you have the one who's looking at the map, navigating you through the road, through the signs, through whatever you see. So it's almost the same concept. It's basically the same concept. You have a driver, coding at the moment. Then you have a navigator who's doing research, and if you're so into typing up a code, he or she's the one to point out like, hey, there's a syntax error. Go back to this one, fix it up. Or if you run into a problem, hey, okay, I'll go ahead and do some research. I found this documentation online. Like, take a look at it. You know, the pair programming it's very helpful, man. And I feel like it's very useful, and whoever uses it in their work, in the work environment, they're doing something good.
Well, so with your analogy, the navigator or the
Hmm.
driver in this case would be instead of a steering wheel, the driver is the person that's typing on the keyboard,
Correct.
and so they're the ones that are driving, quote unquote,
Yeah.
driving as they're typing,
Yeah.
and the navigator is the other person that's supporting, looking up how to, I don't know, like
A
you for,
specific problem. Yeah.
or forget or how to do, I guess, something in React, how to how to pass a prop a certain way in React.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. It's a useful method of teaching someone. It's very helpful. I learned a lot from pair programming, to be honest.
That's awesome that you weren't not alone. You got to feel the pain with someone else.
Yeah, man. You never left alone until you get home. Then you're like, you realize like you don't have your instructor there or your partner there to kind of be like, hey, uh, do you remember how to do this or do you know how to do this? That's when the whole self learning comes into play. But
Mhm.
um, Learn does a very good job at kind of showing you both ways. Actually, a majority of it, the majority of throughout the day is pair programming. But yeah, they give you assessments that are done at every Friday that you do by yourself. But at the same time, they allow you to have each other help help from each other. So, but pair programming for sure, it's a good thing.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I know some people don't like pair programming. Some people don't even know what pair programming is, and
Yeah,
it's a unique experience. But it you learn a lot together and help each
definitely.
other. So it's a nice thing to do, and it's great that they encourage that for you. So during your time at doing at Learn, what did you have the opportunity to build, and do you have anything you want to show off with to us?
So, so what? Unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you guys at this moment. It's all in my local storage, so I mean, I don't know if it's gonna show properly, but um, I had fun building tic tac toe with React. We build a like a sort of a word game with Ruby. We're just using the Ruby console, and then we did one of the main ones where it really challenged me was our Capstone project
Hmm.
was implementing a full front end to a back end, making API calls, and that
Can,
was awesome.
can you explain what a capstone project is?
Yeah,
Like
of
what?
course.
Yeah, what does capstone project mean?
So for them, a capstone project is the final hoorah, the final project where you bring everything that you learned throughout those 12 or let's say 10 weeks and bring it together into one huge project. It wasn't a single project, it was a group project. Like everyone did their part, everyone pitched in, and it uses front end, so what you learn from the front end, and it uses your back end as well, whatever you learned in the back end servers, and it shows you how it goes about building a full website or full application from beginning to end, and implementing these APIs and making API calls and making sure that you don't run up your key for over 50 calls. So it teaches you a lot. And the Capstone project, it's the big final hoorah to be like, all right, let's bring everything together and let's put it all on the table. Let's make everything work from beginning to end with what you've learned in the last 10 weeks. Because the Capstone project, they gave us 2 weeks to build it out.
Gotcha. What were the challenges of how? Yeah, what were the challenges of doing that capstone project? What were your takeaways from that experience?
My challenges were, making the call to the back end and building so-called an API backend. You know, having the verification, authenticity. Uh, you know,
Authentication.
authentic. Yeah, let's just go with authentication. It's some pretty magical stuff, man. It's some stuff that it takes time to understand, and that was one of my biggest challenge was to understand how you verify a user. You don't want just anybody logging in or anyone just altering your data. So that's one of the biggest challenges that came to me was, man, including an API, making these API calls and storing our data, which it's harder than what it sounds like. And one of the biggest ones that, man, it took us like probably like the last 3 days to kind of get it together was to hide our key, our key from our API, because we had that exposed completely to the front end, man.
Yeah.
So that was one of the challenges, was to kind of secure that properly, to have it secured and to have only the admin or us, the developers, access to it or where it's located at.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
it teaches you a lot, man. That whole capstone, learn how learn structures it. It's very good because it, how I say, it ties everything together from week 1 all the way down to week 10. You know, it's like, okay, let's bring it all together. Let's connect it from front to back, and it shows you how everything works.
So Lily's asking, so what was the Capstone project your group decided to do?
So the Capsule project our group decided to do was actually a sun tracking app. It was an idea I had brought it up throughout the mid, you know, code bootcamp. Throughout the mid of the way, I had brought it up to one of my classmates, and who it just happened to be we got paired up at the last, at the big group as a capstone group, and I brought up the idea of creating the sun tracker app. Ability to have a user track their sun exposure time to possibly help them prevent skin cancer in the future. Coming from the medical background, coming from the dermatology aspect, I came through an idea because it's true. A lot of people are not aware of what sun damage can do to you. So we went ahead. I pitched the idea. I said, like, hey, we can have a form of log system where you can log how many hours you're going to be inputted, and along with my other classmates, which pitched very well ideas to add to that, we were able to build out a very, very, very good app, man. I mean, it's nothing like too crazy, but it gives us an understanding of where it can go.
Gotcha.
You could log how many hours you've spent in the in the sun. Based on your skin tone, it gives you what's the good amount of time you can spend in the hours, and if you apply sun protection or not. It gives you also kind of tips to be like, hey, apply sun protection. Also, we included resources, and we also included a graph to kind of pinpoint throughout what time of the days are the high peaks of the UV index. So throughout what time of the day is the sun hitting the most, and we implemented that. We gave that graph to the user as well.
Yeah. Do you have any links to like a GitHub, like your personal GitHub or the GitHub of
repository?
Yeah.
I believe I do. I could go ahead and throw it up right now, man.
Yeah, just throw it into the chat, and maybe we can take a quick look at it.
Yeah, definitely. So here we go. So let's go ahead and so let's see if that will. Oh, there we go. Let me send it to you.
Yeah, it's Slack, Twitch,
Yep,
whatever way you want to do it. Got it. Let's I'll throw this into the chat too, and then we'll show it off momentarily. Just gotta get my screens in order.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. And let me throw this in the chat too. There we are. So this is your sun tracker app.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying that it so sun tracker app is a full stack React in Rails app to help you maintain sun exposure and protection with data and visualization. Man, based off your description, I would definitely want to see what it looked like.
Yeah, man, it was awesome, man. To be honest, it was a good experience. It gives you a good experience of what it is to actually work with the dev team, even though it's your own classmates. But it kind of sets up the environment of like, hey, this is quote unquote what you're going to be experiencing on the daily basis. Like, go ahead and put this on and do everything that you got to do and build it up from there on out, man. Like, it's some pretty cool stuff, to be honest. And I had fun with it. It was challenging and frustrating at times, but it's fun. It's honestly, it teaches you a lot.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about this project from the technical side. So we just read it's React and Rails. Like, what was the full stack? What maybe talk a little bit about the front end, what you used, a little bit about the back end, the database. Where did you host this? I'm curious, how
Yep.
did this whole, like, yeah, how was this whole thing built? Where is it hosted? All that type of stuff.
Yeah. So actually, I think I might have a Heroku link, man. Let me get that for you as well.
Ooh.
So let me go ahead and go back in here, and I think I might have a Heroku link, man. So let's see. So while I'm doing this, so yeah, so front end React, back end Rails. So React and Rails, man. So front end, everything you could think of, as regards as React, we use as well like a library like Bootstrap called Bootswatch to kind of mock out the nav bars, something the simple things, where we didn't want to spend majority of our time. Let's see, where do we have this? Here we go. But yeah, and the back end is hooked up with Rails, Ruby on Rails, and we have all the authentications, everything mapped out, wired up. So let's see, here we go. Copy link.
I don't think I've ever really heard about Bootswatch. Can you explain a little bit of what Bootswatch what is?
Yeah, so Bootswatch is another library that's similar to Bootstrap. It's you could go ahead and incorporate it to give you a lot of nav bars, nav links, buttons, basic templates for styling. So it's a pretty good library. I mean, I would encourage people to use it if they kind of want to stick out of the realm of regular Bootstrap. You go ahead and use Bootswatch.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a nice little gem to have. I think I think I'll bookmark this myself. Give me a second here.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah, that's actually was introduced to us by Learn, one of our little mini projects while we are learning React and Rails. They suggested going through this and building, just taking out the nav bar, building a basic front end to it.
Very cool. All right. Looks like we have the Sun Tracker app up and running. You left us
Nice.
waiting. Why didn't you give us why didn't you give us this sooner?
Sorry about that. I almost had forgotten that we had actually pushed it up to Heroku. But yeah, this is the Sun Tracking app, man. I mean, you can sign up and sign in, and it gives you resources. If you go to the resources tab, it gives you resources about us, etc. Gives you self exams, which it's recommended to doing, Fitzpatrick scale, the ABCD of a mole, etc. Gives you some
Interesting.
pretty good, yeah,
Oh,
Mo
there you
surgery,
go. Looking good. So,
yeah.
looking at this application now and being complete with it, what are the things that you wish you could have focused on some more? Some things that you would have loved to add to this if you had the time to do it.
Definitely, man. One of the things that really stuck out to me is how important wireframing and kind of setting up a good wireframe at first is helpful, because I wish we could have done that a little bit better. And wireframing, getting our ideas, right on the dot, out on, some form of either whiteboard or a piece of paper, whatever, to kind of run through exactly where we wanted to go. There was instances where we kind of, new ideas would bring up or would come up, and we wanted to incorporate it and be like, man, I don't know, if we incorporate this, it's going to kind of diverges from, reaching this endpoint. So definitely what I would do, look at it back now, is it's kind of set up a good wireframe first that will help us, maneuver down, to reach our endpoint. Something else that it's even a plan of mine. I mean, when I first thought about this idea, I thought about having it as a wearable app, working on your Apple Watch.
Oh,
So that was my initial idea at first. When I came up with it was, man, hopefully I get to a point where I could kind of build something similar that could be used on an Apple Watch, that uses maybe, some form of sensor on the Apple Watch that could track your actual sun exposure, as in real time.
yeah.
So
Lily wonders too that if you have plans to continue working on this app for the future?
Definitely. I mean, this is still a goal I have in mind. You know, maybe not this specifically, but taking a lot from this and kind of turning it down and rebuilding it up to fit more of a mobile app.
Gotcha. More
Yep.
more mobile app. I guess, to go with that wearables type of goal that you wish you kind of had. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I mean, so okay, so explain to me, like, what are your motivations onto why you would want to move this to a mobile app instead of just a website?
Um, my goals and my motivation and the reason why I would like to do that is, like I said, I come from a medical background, dermatology. I used to specialize a lot. I used to see a lot of people with skin cancer and due to sun exposure. My main idea to create something like this was to kind of help people and actually inform them about, the the good thing about being protected from the sun, wearing your sun protection, trying to stay out of the sun during peak hours to help prevent future skin cancers, or to be more aware of your skin as well. My main, like I said, my main thing is just to kind of inform and help people out. Like that was my main goal for trying to build something like this, and especially, like I said, wanted to go mobile, man. Like that was my first idea. It was like, man, that would be cool to have a sun tracker app that works on your Apple Watch, because I know Apple Watch uses, sensors, and, that tracks, how much sun exposure you're having, kind of throws a little vibrate when it's like, hey, you've reached a certain amount of time, you haven't worn any sun protection, go ahead and apply sun protection. So that was like my main goal, is to kind of help people and to kind of inform them and help them be more aware of, protecting yourself from the sun.
Yeah.
Especially that we live in California, man.
It's true. And
Yeah,
Southern
man.
California at that. So
Yeah, exactly. And then where I'm from, El Centro, it's like 10 months out of the year, it's like screw, like super hot summer, like over 100 degrees, So, like, I coming from where I live as well, I saw a lot of this. So, yeah, but just in general, living in Southern California, man, I mean, we just got to be more aware of the sun. Yeah, the sun is great, but there could be some damage as well.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's good insight to think about, whether what your idea is more applicable to a watch or mobile, especially for something like this, because someone's not going to sit in front of their computer. An app is definitely easier to use to track the sun exposure. Like you said, give them a little nudge on their wrist or a little vibrate on their phone, telling them,
Hmm.
hey, check yourself. You're in the
Yeah.
sun a little bit too long. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's really good, kind of insight to have. Is if you have an idea, think about your user and how they function day to day and how it's applicable to them.
Hmm.
So I like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, every day, I mean, we go out, even if it's out to go get your mail, you're exposed to the sun, man. I mean, if you're out to get something from outside, you're gonna get exposed to the sun. So, and especially where we live, you can't hide from the sun.
Yeah. So now we're at the stage of your coding bootcamp journey, and you're in the internship phase with us. So I'm curious to hear, just in general, um, when you were what are your hopes to get out of an internship when you were going into when you're joining the program, and as I was creeping close. uh
So my main focus was to get out of this internship, or just in general, when the time was creeping up, was to honestly learn more, to grow, to add to what I had learned from the academy, and add to that, like help me take my skills to the next level. Uh, I'm I was primarily focused on learning and growing. That's one of my main things, is progressing, moving forward, and becoming a better web developer in general. And Zeal, to be honest, is doing awesome at that. All you guys are very helpful. All you guys are very knowledgeable at what you guys do. You guys are the big leagues, to be honest, man. Like I just left spring training. I just left spring training, and then I just got called up to the big leagues. But yeah, man, my main focus is just to get more knowledge and better understanding that a lot of these concepts I'm still kind of hazy about, and I'm it's doing a very good job with this internship.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. Yeah, and hopefully going through the internship you do get a lot of value and a lot of knowledge out of that. I you know, one thing you should, and you mentioned this earlier when going through the boot camp school, but always be mindful of this if you ever have the opportunity to, pair with someone, be mentored, have someone being able to work around other people that are more experienced. Make sure to ask questions.
Yep,
I think
definitely.
I mentioned this to both you and Steven, but you know, you're expected not to know anything. It's okay not to know how to do something or not understand it. You're expected to not know how to do that or not fully understand it. And we want you to ask those questions. We can't help you unless we know um, what you're struggling with, what problems
Hmm.
you're having. If you're excuse me, uh, if you're confused on the subject, you need to ask those questions because the only way we can help you is if you let us know you need help, and that's something very important that everyone should take away from having an opportunity to do an internship, a mentorship, any sort of those things is don't be embarrassed to ask questions. You're an intern for a reason. You're a mentor. You're a mentee for a reason. And that reason is to gain knowledge. So don't feel dumb about not knowing something and having to
Yeah,
ask the question. We want to help you. I want to help
definitely,
you.
man. Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, like, it's a good point that you brought up. We us ourselves, we kind of put a lot of stress on ourselves, being like, man, like we have to know this. It's like how you said it. No, like we're interns. We're that's the whole point, is to kind of dig into this and kind of learn from there. And it's how you said it. Ask more questions. Definitely, man. For anybody who's out there interning, definitely ask questions, even though sometimes it might feel like, man, am I bugging them too much, or they might think I'm stupid. But it's like, no, that's how you said it exactly. It's an internship. You're there to learn. You're there to grow. And to have good mentors like the ones that we have here at Zeal, like including yourself, everyone on the Zeal team, you guys are awesome mentors. You guys are there helping us whenever we get stuck. It's awesome. It's an awesome experience.
Yeah. And Lily, brings up, like you'll, and a lot of people feel this way. It's like, I feel bad asking too many questions. And that's
Hmm.
normal because I sometimes feel bad asking too many questions to people because it's like, oh, I'm bugging them. I'm wasting their time and whatever.
Hmm. Yep.
But you're not. I mean, if you're asking too many questions, they'll say, hold on, hold that thought. I have a meeting to go to, or I need to finish this. They will let you know politely if you've
Yeah.
asked one too many questions. But it's okay to ask questions. Which brings up
Definitely.
a kind of like an interesting tangent. So last night was the party for Learn Academy.
Hmm.
They were celebrating their 5-year anniversary. So I went to it, and it was just downstairs from the office, so it's really easy to go to. And I met these two sisters, and they were interested in going to learn, and they had so many questions. I probably spent half the night talking with them. They were asking about mentoring.
Uh-huh.
They were asking about my work experience, the experience I've had going through work, starting off, my experiences going through college, all those type of they were just asking all sorts of different types of questions about career, about pay,
Hmm.
and they were just asking tons and tons of questions, and I didn't mind answering those questions because they they were they genuinely didn't know about, a coding career, and this is something they're seriously considering, and I want to help them. I want to give them, inform them, and give them, the realities of what life could be and what to expect and how hard it can be. And so I didn't mind, and when I had to step away because I wanted to, needed to get a drink or something like that, I let them know.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to talk someone's ear off about something, and we're having a very good conversation of back and forth questions and comments and stuff like that. It's not those situations where you're just talking about yourself. It was a very
Yeah.
good academic kind of a conversation, matter of fact conversation about my experiences and their experiences of like of what they're trying to do, how they're self-learning, and I enjoyed it, and I hope they got a lot out of it themselves, and hopefully it helped them get motivated and try to do more self-studying and whatnot. So just ask if you have an opportunity to talk to someone more experienced with you and they're willing to sit down with you,
Yeah.
take that opportunity to ask lots of questions. Please do.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Especially, yeah, how you said, if they're willing to give you, their insight and even give you their ear to kind of listen to you. It's take the opportunity, man, because you can learn a lot from a much more experienced developer. Definitely.
And just like with anything else, sometimes you'll come across, there's going to be all sorts of different type of people that don't want to mentor or don't want to ask questions. That's why it's all the more important that if you're actually sitting down with someone that's having a very good conversation with you and answering your questions and providing you lots of good information, take that opportunity, because
Yeah,
you
man.
may know
Definitely.
from fact that like you're not going to just randomly meet somebody any old day that has answers to the questions you have. Just like Lily says, seize that opportunity, seize it.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know
Yes.
it's like it's no
Don't let that go through your hands. Don't like take advantage of that opportunity right then and there.
it's no different than seizing the opportunity for other things in life. It's like if you get that job offer at a company that you absolutely dream about working at, you're seizing that opportunity. It's the same
Oh
way
yeah.
for getting advice or any other thing. Seize that opportunity
Yep.
to get that next level of knowledge.
Definitely. Yep.
So we're wrapping up now. So what? So just overall, what type of words of wisdom and advice would you give somebody that's looking to do a coding boot camp?
Words of advice. The same kind of advice I go by in my own self is, if it's something that you really want to go for it, like how we said, seize the opportunity. Um, the best thing you can ever bet on is bet on yourself. Like, take that risk on yourself. It's for me, for example, before, doing this, I like I said, I pondered with the idea. Like, I know I was going to go, it was going to be 3 4 months of some intense stuff. Like, it took a lot of thinking, a lot of thought, making sure that, hey, is this the right decision I'm gonna do? And if you feel downright and you're ready to challenge yourself and you're ready to go for it, do it. um, just be prepared to invest in yourself, invest time outside of the coding boot camp. But the biggest advice I could give someone is, if you're going to take a risk, if you're going to bet on something, do it on yourself. Bet on yourself. Take that risk on yourself rather than anything else, because you have full control of that outcome. The amount of time, the amount of determination you put into it, it's all based on yourself. No one else knows you better than yourself. So if anybody who wants to go down that road and you guys are still kind of unsure, but deep down you're ready to take the challenge and take the leap, take that first leap. Because if you let the opportunity pass by and years down the road you're like, man, what if I would have taken that? What if I would have gone down that road? you would never know. Who knows? Maybe if you take that chance and you take the opportunity, it could change your life forever. It could put you in the right direction. So that's one of the main things that even myself, I kind of, tell myself and I live by is I don't want to live with that what if, or man, what if I would have done that? Like, take the opportunity right then and there. Have confidence. You just have confidence in yourself and bet on your own self. Take the risk on your own self, on someone that which is yourself. You know what you got to put. You know what needs to be done. So that's one of them I could give anybody who's trying to take the same route. And definitely be prepared to put your time into it. It's not just going to be an 8-hour day. Definitely it's going to be an additional, it might turn out to be a 10, 11, 12-hour day, like it's you got to put time, you got to invest time into it to get the most out of it.
That's really wonderful advice. For a second there, I thought you were going to start singing "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. One chance, one opportunity.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
But I mean, it's the truth, man. I mean, like, it's best to take the chance, on yourself. Take the risk on yourself. Bet on yourself. I mean, it's best to live, with that experience in the future than to live with that what if, man. What if I would have done that, 3 years ago? Like if you have the opportunity to do that, take it. Seize the opportunity and give it your all, 150%. Invest time. What you get out of it is how much you invest into it as well.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's wonderful advice. Thank you. Thank you very
yeah, no
much.
problem, man. Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, is there any other questions from the chat? Are you, Jesus? Do you have any other comments you want to leave behind before we say our goodbyes?
Nope, not at all. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, you will just be seeing a lot more out of there. I'm gonna be pushing my stuff out there, so I'm gonna continue learning. So yeah, definitely. I mean, just the advice I gave. It's. I hope people take the same route that we did. It's very rewarding, to be honest.
Your video is like going absolutely nuts right now. It seems like the internet connection's just kind of going complete bonkers right now. Interesting. Well,
yeah,
I guess it is about time to call it. With that, the internet is going crazy. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, have a good one. Crazy.
You too. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for hanging now. Thank you very much, little Hazy, for asking us questions, and Dark Dargus for helping out. Yeah, my computer is was getting low on battery power, and it's getting hot, so I think it's pushing the limits of what it can handle. Cybermine, you missed it. Thank God for VODs. Yes, so I will be posting this I'll be archiving this on Twitch. I will also be posting this on YouTube on the Zeal YouTube channel. So you can do a search for that. I don't think I have a hot link for that just yet. Let's see. No, yeah, I don't have that hot link just yet. But Cybermine, do you have any questions right now that, we still have a little bit of time? If you have any questions and stuff like that, that maybe we can recap for you before we sign off. I do not mind answering other questions before we sign off. Otherwise, the VOD's always there, like you said, and you're more than welcome to read up on watch that. Not really, just wanted to hear another boot camper's experience. Nice. Well, we got another great conversation, hour-long conversation. There's plenty of content in there, plenty of advice. Some of the advice you've already heard, but it's good to hear it from other people, which is great because it's just reiterating some of the stuff that experiences that you're going to have. So hopefully you you take a lot out of it, and you can always come by and ask questions. You can tweet at myself. You can tweet at Coding Zeal. Yeah. Don't be a stranger. That's what I say. Don't be a stranger. So thank you very much, everyone, for all the support and hanging out. And we got a new follower too. Spicy. We'll watch the VOD. And I will, and if anyone, I will try to export this out to MP3 also, if you just want to listen to it, listen to the audio too. So I'll try to get that out. Follow me on Twitter. I'll be tweeting out the information also. So thanks everyone for hanging out. Have a good one, everyone. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We're going to raid somebody. So let's take this opportunity to raid a wonderful streamer, wonderful coding streamer somewhere out there on the Twitcher lands. So let's take a look at who we can raid. Does anyone have any suggestions? Well, we have James, and we have Sushi Codes, where they're doing game develop. Sushi Codes, yes, I am 100% on board with that. So I'm going to raid you over to another wonderful coding streamer with her and her husband are developers. So they're a bag full of fun, I tell you. I tell you what. So have a lot of fun. And go tell them, just go say hello. We don't have a raid message just yet. Just say, oh, I got it. I know what our raid message is. Our raid message is the Zeal Seals are here. So the Zeal Seals are here. That is your raid message. So spam it. Spam it when you get over there. Have a good one, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.